I never thought I'd be in this position. Lisa and I had been married for 7 years, and honestly, things seemed fine on the surface. We had our good days, our bad days, like everyone else. But lately, I'd started noticing little things. She was more irritable than usual, snapping at me over nothing, and she'd avoid spending time together unless it was absolutely necessary. She'd come home late from work, claiming she was working late or stuck at the office, but her phone was always glued to her hand, and she was secretive about it. I thought maybe she was stressed with her job or just preoccupied, but deep down I sensed something was off. Then came the big shift. One night I was sitting in the living room, scrolling through my phone, and I saw a message pop up on Lisa's screen. It wasn't unusual for her to have her phone out, but the message itself made my stomach drop. It was from someone named Mike, and it was suggestive, flirty even. I didn't read it all at once, but I caught enough to be sure that they were talking about meeting up, private rehearsals, she called it. My mind instantaneously went into overdrive. The next day, I started paying closer attention. I noticed her phone was more glued to her hand than ever, and she'd sneak off into the bedroom sometimes when she thought I wasn't looking. She was acting like she was hiding something. I decided to do some digging. I went through her texts, her social media, her emails, whatever I could access without her catching me. That's when I found the real bombshell: videos of her backstage at the community theater meeting with the director, Mark. They were clearly intimate, touching, whispering, and from what I could hear on the videos, they'd been sneaking around for weeks, maybe months. It wasn't just some innocent flirtation. It was full-blown cheating. I couldn't believe it. My wife, the woman I trusted and loved, was screwing someone else behind my back. It felt like a gut punch right to the chest, like I'd been hit by a truck. I was furious but mostly hurt. How could she lie so easily? How could she look me in the eyes and pretend everything was fine? I was spinning. I'd never felt so betrayed in my life, and I knew I had to confront her, but I also knew this wasn't going to be easy. I didn't sleep that night. I kept replaying everything I'd uncovered: the videos, the texts, the way she had been acting. All those little signs suddenly made sense in a terrible way. Lisa had always been a little bitchy about my hobbies, more interested in her social life than ours. She'd dismiss my concerns, roll her eyes when I asked about her late nights, and she'd always have some excuse ready: "I'm tired," or "it's just work." But now I saw her true face, and it wasn't pretty. The next morning I decided I couldn't delay any longer. I wanted to hear her side, even if I already knew the truth. I waited until she was back from whatever meeting she claimed to be at, and I called her into the living room. She looked surprised to see me sitting there, eyes darting around nervously. I let her stew for a moment, then I laid out everything I had found, showed her the videos, played the recordings I'd secretly made of her late-night calls, and pointed out the suspicious messages. Her reaction was classic. She spun a web of lies instantly. "You're crazy, John," she snapped, crossing her arms. "You're just paranoid. I don't know what you think you saw, but you're imagining things. Mike is just a friend. You're blowing this out of proportion." She looked so confident, so dismissive, like she had rehearsed that exact line, probably countless times. That's when I saw the bitchiness in her eyes, the way she looked at me like I was some idiot who couldn't see what was right in front of him. I felt my blood boiling. I told her, "You've been lying to me for months. I saw the videos, Lisa. I saw what you're doing with Mark. How long has this been going on?" She rolled her eyes, scoffing. "Oh, please, you're overreacting. It's just sex, John. It doesn't mean anything. I need excitement, something you've been too dull to give me. You're not the man I married. Maybe I've just been looking for a little fun outside our marriage. Don't be so dramatic." That's when I lost it. How could she be so callous, so dismissive? I told her I needed some time to think, but honestly, I was already planning my next move. I was hurt, angry, and feeling like I'd been hit by a ton of bricks. I couldn't believe she'd lied so effortlessly, that she'd gone behind my back, laughing and sneaking around with Mark for God knows how long. I realized then that this wasn't just about a cheat. It was about trust, respect, and whether our marriage was worth saving after all the betrayal. I knew I couldn't just sweep this under the rug. I had to do something about it. After that confrontation, I didn't sleep much. My mind kept circling back to everything I'd uncovered. The videos, the texts, her cold, dismissive attitude. It all felt like a nightmare I couldn't wake up from. I sat there in the dark for hours, trying to process what it all meant. I kept asking myself how she could lie so effortlessly, how she could look me in the eye and pretend nothing was wrong. I'd always thought Lisa was a little high maintenance, maybe a bit bitchy, but I never thought she was capable of betrayal like this. The next day, I knew I had to come up with a plan. I wasn't just going to confront her. Again, I wanted to catch her in the act, to make sure I had irrefutable proof before I did anything extreme. So I started laying a trap. I kept track of her schedule, watched her social media activity, and even enlisted a close friend of hers, Tom, to keep an eye out. A part of me was hoping she'd screw up again, and I could finally put an end to this whole nightmare. Of course, I also felt a strange mix of revenge and justice brewing inside me. I wasn't just hurt anymore, I was furious. I wanted her to know what it felt like to be betrayed, to be lied to and humiliated. I wanted her to feel the same pain I was feeling right now. I decided I'd make her see that I knew everything, that her little secret was no longer safe. I also had to think about what I'd say afterward, how I'd handle the fallout. But deep down, I knew I couldn't keep pretending things were okay, not anymore. One of the most gut-wrenching moments came when I discovered that she was planning to meet Mark again that same evening. I got hold of her phone, secretly, and checked her messages. She had arranged a private rehearsal at the theater, claiming she was rehearsing for a new play, but I knew better. I knew she was meeting Mark, probably for sex or something even worse. I felt my hands shake as I looked at the messages. It was the confirmation I needed. That night I decided to follow her. I stayed in my car outside the theater, hidden in the shadows, watching her go inside with that smug, bitchy expression on her face. I felt my stomach tight. This was it. I was about to see her with my own eyes, to catch her in the act. I waited patiently, heart pounding, until I saw her walk out with Mark, more intimate than ever. They looked like lovers, not friends. I saw the way they hugged, the way she looked at him with that smirk that made me want to punch something. That was the moment I realized I couldn't let this slide anymore. It was time for action. Watching her walk out with Mark felt like being punched again, only this time my resolve hardened even more. I was furious, but I also felt a strange sense of clarity. I had all the evidence now, and I knew I couldn't just let her go on pretending everything was fine. I had to do something, but I wanted to do it smart, something she wouldn't expect, something that would make her regret ever messing around behind my back. So I waited until she got home, parked my car discreetly down the street, and waited. When she finally pulled into the driveway, I watched her get out, looking smug as if she just had the best night of her life. I stayed quiet for a few minutes, then I called her out as she entered the house. "Lisa," I said, voice steady but cold, "we need to talk." She looked surprised, like she thought I hadn't seen her or knew anything. That smirk on her face was really starting to get under my skin. I told her I knew about her meeting Mark, about the videos I'd seen, the texts I'd read. Her face froze for a moment, then she scoffed. "Yeah, right. You're imagining things. You're just paranoid because you're insecure." She lied so effortlessly, so easily, like she was used to it. She tried to deny everything, but I had her dead to rights. I whipped out my phone, played the videos, and showed her the proof that she'd been caught red-handed. She went silent for a long moment, then her bitchy side came out full force. "So what if I did? It's not like I cheated on you with some random guy. Mark is just—" I cut her off. "Just what? Your new boyfriend. Your latest toy for your petty little ego. Don't even bother lying anymore. I've seen enough. I saw your sneaky kiss-ass backstage videos. I saw the texts where you talk about how bored and unfulfilled you've been, how you needed some excitement. Well, Lisa, I hope you got your thrill, because I'm done pretending." Her eyes narrowed and her voice turned icy. "You don't understand, John. I was bored and I was trying to figure things out. It's not a big deal. It's just sex, and honestly, I don't see how it affects us. You're overreacting again." I gritted my teeth. "You think I'm overreacting? You think this is just about sex? I trusted you. I trusted you more than anyone. And you just threw that trust aside like it was nothing. Do you even realize how much you've hurt me?" She rolled her eyes and shrugged. "I don't care. I'm not perfect, John. Maybe I'm not the wife you wanted anymore. Maybe I need more than what you're willing to give." That was the moment I decided I'd had enough. I told her I needed time to think, but deep down, I knew I was done. I couldn't stay in a marriage where lies and betrayal ruled. I was angry, yes, but mostly I was devastated. It hit me hard that someone I loved so much had become a stranger, someone so capable of lying and cheating without remorse. I felt like I was drowning in a mixture of sadness and rage. I knew this wasn't going to be easy, but I also knew I had to make a choice, stay and forgive or walk away and start over. The betrayal was too deep to ignore, and I couldn't see myself ever trusting her again. The days that followed were like living in a fog. I couldn't eat, couldn't sleep. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw Lisa's smug face, heard her dismissive voice. Part of me wanted to tear everything apart, to confront her again, demand she admit everything, but I knew that wouldn't help. I needed to think, to figure out what I really wanted and, most importantly, how I was going to move forward. I started packing some of my things, not because I was ready to leave immediately, but because I knew I had to be prepared in case she tried to spin this into some kind of misunderstanding or fixed marriage. I reached out to a few friends, people who knew us both, and frankly, I was surprised at how many of them told me I was better off without her. Some said she was a bitch, some said she'd always been selfish, and that her actions proved she didn't deserve my loyalty. That stung, but I also knew they weren't wrong. I'd been blind for a long time, trying to see the best in someone who clearly didn't feel the same about me. I felt a mix of relief and heartbreak. How did I let it get this far? How did I not see the signs earlier? One afternoon, I finally confronted her again, calmly but with a cold edge I hadn't known I possessed. I told her I was done pretending, that I was filing for divorce. Her reaction was the same bitchy sneer as always. "You're overreacting, John. This is just a phase. You're being jealous and insecure. You're making a huge deal out of nothing." I looked her straight in the eyes and said, "No, Lisa, I saw enough. I saw the videos, I read the texts, I know about Mark. And I know that I'm not going to be your backup plan anymore. I deserve better than being lied to and cheated on." She threw a tantrum, trying to guilt-trip me, saying how she was confused, how she was sorry but needed more. All the classic excuses, but I wasn't buying it. I told her I didn't want to hear it, that I was finished. I couldn't keep pretending she was the woman I fell in love with. The betrayal was too deep, and I felt my respect for her evaporate with each passing minute. So I went ahead with the divorce. I hired a lawyer, sorted out the finances, and made it clear I wanted her out of my life. It was one of the hardest decisions I've ever made, but I knew it was necessary. I couldn't let her keep pulling me into a web of lies and betrayal. I deserved to be with someone who respected me, who didn't cheat and lie behind my back. That realization was both heartbreaking and freeing at the same time. I was finally taking control, even if it hurt like hell. Now that everything's done, divorce finalized, house sold, and me finally moving on, I can honestly say I've learned a lot from this mess. The biggest thing: never ignore the signs. I was blind for a long time, trying to convince myself she was just stressed or busy, but deep down I knew something was wrong. I should have trusted my instincts sooner. That's on me. But I also learned how much damage lies and betrayal can do, even to someone who thought they knew their partner inside out. Honestly, I feel a mix of relief and sadness. Relief because I no longer have to live in denial, no longer have to pretend everything's okay when it's not. Sadness because I lost someone I cared about, someone I thought was my forever. But I also feel stronger now. I realize I don't need someone who cheats and lies to be happy. I can build a better life for myself, one where honesty, respect, and trust are the foundation. To anyone out there going through something similar, trust your gut. Pay attention to the little signs before they turn into big betrayals. And don't be afraid to walk away if that's what it takes. It hurts, but it's better than living in a lie. I don't regret what I did. I only regret not doing it sooner. I'm still healing, still piecing everything back together, but I know one thing for sure: I'm better off without her. And I hope anyone else in a similar situation finds the strength to do the same.